So then we are back with the more understandings from the time of the Second Tabernacle services, where we find the Aramaic English translation of the word. This translation comes from the original manuscripts of the prophets of the Tzayelic lineage. So then we can understand the time of the end. As per Yeshayahu the prophet, we find layers of understanding of the spring feast, the autumn feast, and also the returning of the holy cities of the Hamashiach laid waste for many centuries. Reading from Yeshayahu the prophet, it's very important understanding the layer related with the salvation of the soul. Was a very important topic because in the New Testament, the scripture is mixed with many other types of way of life. And from the Peshitta, from the Aramaic text, from where then later the Greco translation came from, because the entire content of the New Testament comes from a Hebraic thoughts, Hebraic understanding, and Hebraic culture. Now then, the salvation from an understanding from the prophets. What has then Yod He Vav He, the very Creator, regarding the salvation of the soul in His Torah? Now then, these layers of the New Testament, a lot of them were invented. Thus then, the first influence of those who were involved with the New Testament, they truly made lots of modifications, or the takanotes, regarding the scripture. Now, the salvation of the soul is not an exercise of the spirit. When comes the salvation of the soul, it is the analysis of the scripture. Now then, from the set apart or the elect is also dependent upon rather a soul makes a step forward and maintains. This means salvation is conditional. Because the soul that sins shall die. So then, when people get involved in many habits, they are not truly involved with habits that are going to help them in the future. They themselves, because of their actions, they're simply showing that these people are lost. So then, the dependency of the soul is obviously scripture. There is the original translation from Hebrew. Now, the spirit does not bring maintenance of the soul. That's when there are a lot of people, when they read the New Testament, and they have many kinds of interpretations, many kinds of scripture, and many kinds of opinion, but most of them do not come from the original manuscripts. So then the Hamashiach ben Yosef, he was giving a few clues of the completion of the spring feast and the salvation of the soul. Now then, Revelation is another point, because Revelation does not have in the Hebrew text Yeshua. Now, the basic understanding of salvation in Yeshua in the New Testament does not line up with the content known as gospel. So then, as far as the tabernacle or the presence, then comes the period of known as restoration of tabernacle or the building of the temple. And why are these sections so important for the salvation of the soul? A lot of souls are lost because the text from the original writings of the New Testament, from the lineage of Hebrew or Hebraic understanding, talks of maintenance, not an unconditional way of living. So, these situations, when reads from the New Testament, gives an absolute confusion as far as having destructive and sinful lifestyles and yet claiming salvation. So later on I'm going to evaluate these from the enlightenment of the Torah, the Tanakh, and also from the time of the Hamashiach ben Yosef. So please stay tuned, much more coming up.